Hello, everyone. I'm happy to see you here, and for those who will be viewing this afterwards, I'm Nick Theo, and one of the hats I wear here is as admissions manager for our master's and PhD program. So, I want to welcome you to our inaugural open house for this year. So, at this point, I will introduce you to Kendra Ford, who is the academic program lead for the MSc, and also on staff is Francesca Hector, who is the community manager. And in turn, they will introduce alumni. And please feel free to engage and talk with us. We've always found these sessions work far better when we're all engaging back and forth. So over to you, Kendra.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome everybody. Good to see you all here. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about the MSc program and the approach that we take to education. I'll probably talk for about anywhere from 5-10 minutes or so. We really, as Nick noted, we like to um, give a lot of time to these open houses, to allowing our alumni who are here to talk about their experiences and to engage in dialogue with all of you who are here. Um, I'll just say I've been with Alef Trust for the last 8 years and have been in this role of academic program leader for the last 4 years. So I've really have had the opportunity to see and to be a part of a growing understanding of Aleph Trust and how our programs are designed and how we are really doing something unique within the field of psychology and particularly consciousness and transpersonal psychology and spirituality. And our program, the MSc, is really designed to be a program that's not just about content learning. It's a really important element. Yes, it's important to get the really concrete, foundational understanding of these topics that we're working with. It is a very rigorous program. We do, hope that students who go through the program are going to come out with an MSc and have the language, the research capacities, and the skills and the academic, the scholarly abilities to either perhaps continue on to a PhD, which several of the students have done at this point, or to re-enter the fields that they have been working with a new set of tools and expertise and abilities, or to create a new pathway of profession for themselves. So we do all of that. We offer all of those tools from a really rigorous academic standpoint. And because we're working within a transformative learning capacity, we really invite you as a human being in this global, complex world, right, to engage within your own personal process in relationship to the theory. What does the theory mean to you? How are you understanding yourself in the world in relationship to consciousness, in relationship to what you know about spirituality and contemporary spirituality? How do you take what you're learning in the classroom and apply it into your own life? So we really invite students to bring in the whole self into the learning environment. And we've done this in a way that really kind of takes you from a foundation of consciousness and personal process, and we build upon these skills throughout the course of the 3-year program. Now, to just give a really general kind of overview of how the program is designed, um, the first year we have a year-long course called Learning Through Integrative Practice. And I believe in the next open house, we'll have the module leader um, here, and she's going to speak more about that. So, what I'll say about these open houses is that you're welcome to come to as many as you want. We will have different faculty members attending the different open houses, so you can get even different perspectives from different faculty and learn more about the program as you attend these various different open houses. But that first year long module, the Learning Through Integrative Practice, is really a personal module. Of course, we're linking the academic elements to LIP, and maybe our alumni will talk a little bit about LIP as well. And what we often hear from students when they start that module is that it feels like it's kind of this lighter module, and then they get to the end of it and they realize how the structure of the module supported them in a much deeper process than what was anticipated. And that module sits alongside two highly academic modules, approaches to consciousness and spiritual psychology. So again, you can see we've got the personal and the academic sort of working in tandem in relationship to each other. So the first year is really about developing foundations in the major fields of study that we're working with, and establishing a better understanding of yourself in relationship to those fields. Then in the second year, we turn towards developing research skills. Research design is the year-long module that's in that year. And alongside research design is transpersonal psychology, where you go deeper into the field of transpersonal psychology, learning about the history, current theories, current trends, the various different avenues in which transpersonal psychology and studies can be applied. And then in the second half of the year, you take applied transformative psychology, which is really about developing a project. It's more about turning towards thinking, how would I like to see what I'm interested in come into manifestation or fruition out in the world? And you do that in a supported way. The third year is where you then engage in an original study of your own. So that involves the process of developing your own research question, thinking about the method, and then going out and engaging in that research project. So it's a highly rigorous curriculum, and it's a highly supported curriculum. In addition to what we're doing within the online environment and in the classroom, um, our program is also very well supported, and we can maybe hear that from the alumni as well, their experience, if you choose. In addition to the classroom, we have a personal tutor structure, which is basically at the beginning of your studies, you would be assigned a personal tutor. And that personal tutor, there's a group that you'll have with other students. That personal tutor is your personal support throughout the entire MSc. So it's the one person who basically stays with you throughout the entire program. We have well-being resources. So for those who need any sort of accommodations or just want to know, like, how can I maintain my stress while I'm going through the program? Or how can I better organize myself in order to navigate? I've just now added this amazing MSc to my already full schedule and life, and I've got all these other things going on. How can I fit that in a way that I can also thrive in my studies and in my life? And then we have learning resources that, for those of you, we understand that students come into the program from all different walks of life, from different areas of studies. It's not a requirement to have a psychology degree in order to apply for the MSc. So you may be coming from a completely different field of orientation or study. And you may also have, spent the last 20 years doing something entirely different than academic studies, right? Some students, the MSc usually tends to attract more mature students. So we recognize that there are some academic skills that perhaps need to be remembered or developed. So we have learning support also that is offered throughout the entire 3 years, so that you can learn again, what does an essay look like? How do I write this? What are some of those foundational skills? Because the modules are really set around the content and learning the ideas and the theories, engagement, what's the relevance to the world, and then the learning is, what are the formatting guidelines? How many spaces do I have with paragraphs? Some of that really nitty gritty academic skills that are needed in order to allow yourself to then convey your ideas really clearly and effectively. I think what I want to say before I turn it over to Fran around Alef Trust and what we do and how we hold the MSc is that we really recognize that the MSc and isn't happening within a vacuum, right? The the program is happening within a global community, within a global world. Our faculty come from all over the world. Our students come from all over the world. We all are living in various different contexts that are very unique to our situations, and there are some commonalities that we also all share. And so we really aim and strive to make what we're teaching in this online environment to not only be relevant to the fields of study that we're focusing in, consciousness, spirituality, and transpersonal psychology, but how is this information relevant into the world in the world that we're living now, right? How can we take what we're doing within this academic environment and doing these academic exercises, writing essays and communicating in this academic scholarly way, right? How can that then lead towards some sort of transformative change, not only within students and ourselves as a community, but also out in the world, right? What does that look like? And of course, for each and every student who comes into the program, it's going to look a little bit different or maybe very different, at the end. But I want to really just, hold that or share that with you all that Aleph Trust is a living community, right? We constantly are focused in our own engaged learning process as staff, as faculty, and we really aim to make what we're doing in this MSc relevant to the world and to the needs of the world. So I think I'll leave it at that. I'm sure there's, more that we can talk about when we get to the discussion and answer, but I'll hand it over to Fran, who's going to introduce herself a little bit, and then also the alumni who are here.
Thanks, Kendra. It's lovely to see everyone here. And I'm the community coordinator for Alef Trust, and also an alumna of the MSc program. Graduated a few years ago, so also aware of the MSc journey and how it has evolved as well. This is a very evolving program with changes coming in with the feedback from previous years. So you really will be standing on the shoulders of all the students that have come before you as well, and in quite an evolving and co-creative curriculum and learning environment, with quite a strong emphasis as well on the peer collaborations, on getting to know each other, on working in small group projects on some modules, and create study groups with other students, and more informal community spaces as well. So that's also very much part of this journey. And as Kendra mentioned, it's really a journey of personal development as well as academic and professional development, really bringing transformative approaches into all the diverse fields that our students, that you're all immersed in. So people do apply their learnings and experiences in a lot of different fields, in different ways. So I'd like to hand over now. Let's give a big thank you to our two alumni who are joining us today, Beth and Petra, and just ask you if you'd like to share a little about how have you taken what you've learned from the classroom and from Alef Trust out into the world. What did you get from the program? What have you gone on to do? And if there's any other highlights, any other little insights that you'd like to share, maybe I'll hand over to Beth first. You can introduce yourself and take a few minutes.
And I
Thank
was
you.
going to graciously let Petra go first. Hi, everybody. My name's Beth, and I finished the Alef MSc program last June, or July, as it should say. And I was drawn to this program because I already had. I was in a private practice. I have a spiritual counseling private practice, and based on a fair amount of experiential types of training. So I had a teacher, I had a sangha, I had studied particular esoteric, documents and practices and that type of thing. But before I started all that esoteric work, I had graduated with an undergrad degree, a Bachelor of Science, first in nursing and then in business. And so I had a part of kind of a well disciplined scientific mind approach to life. And then I had all these esoteric types of experiences and teachings that I felt were really very valuable, at least for my personal growth and the support of the clients that I was working with. But I could not figure out how to put those two pieces of my experience together. So the scientific piece, the kind of linear thinking, and then the esoteric practice and the value that I felt there was. And so when I realized finally that I felt like I needed more education and more ways of communicating, being able to communicate with my clients and with other people in the world. And I wanted to find a program that was fully accredited, that had a scientific background piece to it, but that also could accommodate this other aspect of life, so we'll use the transpersonal word to kind of describe this larger aspect of life. And so that was what initially drew my interest into this particular program, and the fact that I could attend online because I live in a remote area and don't have a university available to me locally, which actually doesn't really matter for most of the world, because this, at the time I was looking for an MSc program, was the only Masters of Science program that had a focus on anything transpersonal. So that to me is unique. The way the program is run is unique. And you've already heard the word rigorous about 10 times, I think, from Kendra. And that is very true. So it is a program that will be a stretch. At least I found it a stretch. And I think most of the other folks in my cohort would agree that most of us felt stretched, both academically and personally. And so I'll leave it at that and not take all the time and let Petra have a turn.
Thank you, Beth. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions bubbling from what Beth has just shared, you can always come in later when we have a Q&A. And Petra, over to you. Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here. And thank you, Beth. Yeah, my sort of background is obviously a bit different to yours, but there's some similarities. I had a very sort of worldly career in law and human rights, and then a very separate, very private and deep, long-lasting sort of spiritual practice, and they were always kind of separate, and I really struggled to kind of bring them together and embody those in my everyday life in a way that would feel kind of integrated and true to me. And I have to say, I did not really go about this MSc in terms of the decision in a very systematic way. I just stumbled over it, and I just immediately knew that I had to do this, just because of there was, this feeling, this pull, or something just clicks, and it's like, yes, exactly, that's exactly what I've been waiting for. And I didn't even consider the amount of resources that are required to do this. And I think it's a perfectly manageable program, but it is rigorous and it is very serious, and it asks a lot of you, not just from a sort of cognitive or intellectual level, but I think if you really, sort of give it your all, it can be truly, truly transformative. And I think that's, that word is being used very lightly and frequently nowadays, and every other training and program is transformative. So that, but I think what Alef has put together here really kind of captures the essence of what that is and of what transformation is, because they've just created this very, very powerful container that over 3 years lets you really explore all these concepts and ideas, but at the same time you can bring in your own interests and passions, perhaps even issues to some degree, really work with your own life as a part of this program. And 3 years is a long enough of a time frame that things can really sort of trickle down into your sort of deeper layers, and new things can emerge. And I've actually the 3 years I've been involved in this program, a lot of things happened. My first son was born. My father died in a very tragic way, and I'm just saying this because I always felt a deep appreciation that I was part of this program and part of this community, and I could, I didn't have to put these things aside, but I could kind of let them be part of this learning journey, and sort of infuse that journey with it. And and I really don't know, I really can't imagine not having done this program myself. I don't know who I'd be or where I'd be. I'd be somewhere for sure, but I feel like it just facilitated some kind of process that was, that wanted to happen, would have perhaps happened in one way or the other, but that was just the right environment, that having that space, that support, that guidance, and those people who I think are really just outstanding, just really tremendously inspiring people who really give this program their all, and you can feel that at any moment. So yeah, I'll stop there and see if there's any questions. Or Francesca, back
Thank you so much, Petter.
I see there's a question in the chat for Petter. Jelena is asking if she says, curious if Petter is still practicing law or has had a career change since.
Both. So I wanted to go into coaching and transformational coaching and facilitation and that kind of stuff for a long time, and I've actually changed my job during the MSc. I'm working for a big charity, and I'm not just working in law, but I'm also doing a role as a coach for that NGO and helping the organization to transform itself. And that's where I would say a lot of the things have been very valuable, particularly from the applied transformational whatever that module is called, where you're kind of working more with social dynamics and social and political processes. And so I feel like for anyone, in general, who wants to pivot in their career, I think there's usually kind of, that's how I feel, see it. There's like these two elements. There's this inner process, the like kind of clarifying one's own vision, getting, sharpening the saw or whatever, getting clear about what you want and what your capacities are. And then there is sort of the wider sphere of really being able to better read those wider social structures and kind of see where one's potential can best be utilized. So they are not separate, of course, but yeah, it's helped me definitely to find more meaning in my current work, and I feel like there's still a lot more to come that's kind of sprouting at the moment.
I'm wondering if we should open it up for more discussion. I think Petter and Beth have sort of, I really appreciate your reflections about the program. I think it's really helpful to hear what it's like to go through the program and to kind of have that discernment too around, you know, why you chose this MSc over something else. And we hear this a lot from students that, when they came across Aleph, whether it was through a dedicated search or it was stumbling, like Petter said, that there's this sense of like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. And so maybe, you've had that experience of, that bit of spark of like, wow, I didn't know this existed, but it does. And, is this for real? Is this a real, program that that I can engage in and get an MSc? And, we've had several, I think, Petter, you might have been part of the year where we had a lot of lawyers in the curriculum, in the program, in that cohort. So we, again, just, emphasizing that we have students that come into the program who, we've had students that already have PhDs, but, got a PhD in a mainstream program, and really wanted to engage in these topics from a transpersonally, spiritually oriented perspective. So we have, both students that are coming in with bachelor's degrees, bachelor's in arts and sciences, and also, students who already have graduate degrees. And I think by way of the transformative learning model, you're really able to work with the literature and to work with the content and the teachings from where you're at, wherever you're coming from. And we provide the structure to be able to engage in dialogue, and sometimes, it can feel very exhilarating, like sometimes it can feel a little bit intimidating. And I think that that's part of the tension of the transformative learning, is that we hold that space and we enter that space with you so that we can be in that dialogue around these topics and what it means and how do we apply it and how do we learn from it together. So I'll just say that last point and then open it up for some questions. And maybe Nick, should I hand it over to you to sort of manage the discussion Q&A?
Sure.
Okay.
Let me read. How many teaching days, hours are there per week, and what is the schedule like? How many hours a week would you suggest are needed for private studies on the course? And this is from Nick.
I can speak to that from my point of view, and then maybe if Beth and Petra, you also want to speak to this. So teaching hours, it can vary, but generally speaking, webinars happen live, and webinars in each module. So at any given time, you would be in two modules. There's in both year 1 and 2, there's a year-long module that happens, of course, across both terms. And there is also a first term module and a second term module. So 2 modules happening at any given time. Generally, each webinar for the modules is 90 minutes long. They're held live, always recorded. It's not required to attend the lectures live. We don't take attendance or anything like that. We recognize that we might be teaching at a time that it's, 3 a.m. your local time. So, we're not expecting for you to attend a lecture at that time. So those are recorded, accessible almost immediately. So let's say maybe 3 hours of lectures a week, something along those lines. But we generally say that, there's lecture time, there's reading time, there's writing time, researching, etc. And we generally say that that can take anywhere between 15 to 25-ish hours. It's a part-time MSc. So you generally want to allot that amount of time for yourself for the program. So maybe I could hand it over to Beth and Petra to see if you have, if you want to speak from your experience of what it's like to actually engage in those hours throughout the week.
Well, I'm kind of chuckling because when I was introduced into the program, or I began the program, and we asked this question about estimated time, the published estimated time used to be 12 to 15 hours a week. And I remember thinking about this, I was trying to make the decision about whether I was going to apply, and if I was accepted, if I was going to do it, and all this. And I had very carefully looked at my schedule and all of my personal responsibilities and said, well, yes, 12 to 15 hours a week, I can figure out how I can fit that in. So I was good, except that is not, that estimate at that time wasn't accurate, and it isn't accurate. And the figure that Kendra just gave is, much closer, I think, to what most of us spent with our work. So I think that, I'm not even sure what you said now, Kendra, 15 to 20 or 20 to 25, whatever it was.
50, we've updated our published hours now based on feedback from students. Again, I think this is part of the evolution of Alef and just our response to the growing developments within the fields that we're working with. We really want to make sure that you are prepared and that you do have the information. And so, we've updated it to 15 to 25 hours. That's generally what we say the program can take. And, that can vary from one week to the next, but yes.
Yeah. And it does vary, because there's times during the year that, there's kind of a confluence of assignments that might be due, and that weekly allocation goes up, and there's other times that maybe are not so intense. And it's very good to help you learn time management and all kinds of effective studying skills to do it, because it's, at least for me, my experience, the materials are really interesting to me, and whatever would be presented in a webinar, in a lecture, there's always a list of resources, there's always a list of, suggested other readings and this type of thing. And I have the kind of level of curiosity that would lead me deeper into things. So my time allocation is probably higher on average than what it actually requires to just kind of do the course. So some of what I'm saying you have to take with a little grain of salt.
I'd also like to add, should any of you be interested, I can email you a copy of last year's schedule so you get an idea of the pace or rhythm. It's not going to be exact, probably 95% exact. And also that we are in a traditional semester schedule, because there are many online programs that go 52 weeks a year. You're not going to deal that there. You will have your break over the holidays, and then you're off during the summers from early June until late September. So that gives you time to recharge. I'm just going to put my email address for those who are here and those who are viewing this later on. And I'll be happy to, as I said, send you a copy. All right. I happen to have just answered Amy's question about the semesters. I hadn't read that. There's a question here. Let me back up. Anna, we have accepted students with a 2-2. What we're looking for, there's a mix. The normal things that any master's program looks to, for academic uh, drive, but we're also looking at what's coming from within the applicant. And I've said over the years, a lot that we're looking at is the quality of your personal statement, the quality of your essay. And I've said to people repeatedly, speak from your heart, write it out academically, but speak from your heart. Those are the people we bring in. There's not this boilerplate template. Oh, you got this grade, welcome in, and then no to the other. We're more moved by what's stirring from within you because that's part of it. It's experiential. Then there was a question for Beth and Peter. Could you offer a few tips that might help new students get the most out of the program?
Yeah, happy to try to answer that. I just felt the impulse before about talking about the time needed for. Just wanted to briefly add that I think time's very relative, and I think there is perhaps what would be ideal and what would be recommended, but then there is sort of the situation, what necessity may create in your life. And I did the MSc when I did not have these recommended hours available to me to the full degree. But I'm still glad I did it because I just feel like when the time is right, resources are something that perhaps can be. That's just a personal, personal experience, or I just feel like when something wants to happen, it will happen, and so perhaps even a certain constraint on resources that's not fully aligned with the recommendation may permit a successful and enriching experience of the program. But I would definitely, in terms of, and now I'm coming back to that question, I think good thing is to really, really take it seriously, because this is not a program where just because it's an online program and you kind of have to pay a fee for it, that automatically means any kind of good grades or anything. It actually really asks a lot, and kind of getting as soon as possible kind of into that academic and this curricular kind of state of mind, and really reading and exploring and connecting with the community, and giving sort of the importance of the space that you give it right at the beginning, I feel like pays off long term. So that's, and perhaps the other advice to make most of it, I think, is really to connect with the people, because it's a unique opportunity to really be in touch with people who have, on average, I would say, quite similar interests compared to who one may, generally encounter in everyday life. So there's a kind of concentrated density of people with certain ideas, and to really make most out of that, and perhaps even get in touch with people then sort of on a private level, or if it's locally possible, create little subgroups or little extra circles. I think it's tremendously valuable, because that's what makes it actually, that's what takes it out of the academic context and really brings it into your real life, everyday life.
Great, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, I think, Petter, you just spoke to the community aspect of Aleph that I think is a really essential piece of how we operate and how we work. And yeah, we have, these content webinars and we have these modules. And we have a very clear structure to the MSc and the requirements that we have in order to achieve the MSc that are validated. And there's the community, which is really, I liked that word that you said. There's sort of a density of people, right, that have common interests, and depending on where you live in the world and the communities in which you're part of, in your in-person sort of life, the Aleph Trust community is really a place where people have developed lifelong friendships and colleagues in the world, because essentially the group of people that you come into the program with will become your colleagues out in the world and in the field. And there's various different ways in which we support community. I'm wondering, Fran, if maybe you want to speak a little bit to that around, how we support community and what that even looks like, for when students graduate the MSc, and how we, once you're part of Aleph Trust, you're always part of Aleph Trust. It's kind of, how the community of it works. And, we really support the alumni to stay connected. I'll also just say one more thing. We often find that students almost right away will develop certain friendships, or, and they usually develop WhatsApp groups or other channels of communication where they're staying in communication with each other. So, and I'll hand it over to Fran, though. Maybe you can speak a little bit to the community aspect.
Yeah, thank you, Kendra. The community aspect develops during the program through group projects, through reaching out to people, through individual connections that you'd make while you're on the course. And also, we do, in the last few years, we have had an in-person gathering over the last couple of years. Last year, we hosted the Eurotask conference, which was in Oxford, and that brought together a lot of students, alumni. That was a super, super opportunity for everyone for a lot of people to meet in person. And prior to that, there was the 10th anniversary of Aleph Trust, which was held in Liverpool. So that was another really lovely get-together. And there's a group in London that meets up occasionally, and other groups of people in local areas who connect. But we are an online community, so there are opportunities to meet up through community webinars. We have presentations sometimes with students and alumni sharing their work, sharing what they're up to. And a lot of things happen organically, and a lot of things happen without us as faculty or as even knowing about it, like finding out that certain people have connected and they're lifelong friends now, or that they're writing a paper together. There's definitely a lot of opportunity for connections, and some of my best friends now are people who I've met through the MSc, I'd say, and some of whom are also colleagues as well. So it's connections. It's a place for making connections in areas that you're interested in, with people who resonate with these values as well. And we also have other community projects like the Nurturing the Fields of Change, which is our community space and membership community and program for holistic change facilitation. That sits within Aleph Trust, but it also extends beyond, welcoming in people who are not part of the MSc program. So that's just a little taster there, and I don't know if Petra or Beth would like to add anything, or maybe if there's some more questions coming in, you can unmute your mic as well if you've got a question to bring in to anybody.
While we're waiting for that, I'd like to read more that we have on the chat. One that would be to Kendra about the reading list, but before Kendra responds to that, I'd like to share, and I suggest this to a number of our applicants, is if you go to our website and if you look on the navigation bar to the far right, there's a section for publications. And you'll see journals that we publish, and within those journals you can read some of the papers and projects that our students have done. It will show you the creativity that each student brings into the program. You're part of it because the topics are so varied but interesting and deep. And then a little bit lower, you're going to see a link called Sacred Science Circle. And this is a project that Alef Trust has been involved in for many years as a public access for peer-reviewed journals in transpersonal psychology. This will give you a feel and sense of some of the things you'll be reading while you're in the program. And then I'll just turn over to Kendra, more specific on reading lists and when they are available.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So if you choose to apply and you get accepted into the program, we're usually in touch sometime in August with all of the welcoming materials. And within those welcoming materials are the reading lists for the modules that are starting in the fall. So the start of the academic year is in late September or mid-September is when you have orientation week. But then the modules start the week after. So you'll generally have about a month or so. You'll have the reading lists ahead of time and some welcoming materials to help get oriented and just kind of, settle in to start the academic year in the fall.
All right, thanks, Kendra. Next one we had was about the applications. We really urge people who want to be a part of this program to apply by June and not wait until the last minute. This permits enough time, one, to have your application reviewed, and should there be any questions, because sometimes another document's needed or whatever, nobody's sweating, yelling, screaming to get things in last minute. Also, we keep a ceiling on the size of our cohorts. So we're not looking, we're going to, stuff in as many students as possible. So in some years, we do reach that limit sometime in July. So do keep that in mind. And as was put up on the chat screen, yes, I'll be doing application workshops. Those won't be recorded, but they're more a time, to get together in small groups to talk about what's needed in the application. A number of applicants feel nervous about their personal statement and essay, and this gives time to talk it through. At that point, let me give you the link. I'm going to give you two links. The first is to the application, and that's really right on the MSC page itself, and you'll see now a link where just to apply. They'll be there in the upper right-hand screen. And you can work on that at your own pace, and you could save the application. Sometimes people get thinking they have to get everything done at once, and no, give yourself time. Always remember, you're a quality project. Never rush through anything you do in your life. And then the second link is for the open houses. As we have mentioned, the subsequent open houses will be more thematic, and it'll permit you the chance to really see how several of the key modules work within the program and also for the application workshops. So you'd have those there. And let me see if there are any other, I think we've gotten. Yeah, also, if anybody wants to ask a question, by all means, just please raise your hand and then you can unmute and just speak to anybody within our team directly. Yeah, go ahead also.
Thank you. Thanks, Nicholas. Thanks, everyone. It's great to be here. And obviously, thanks to alumni especially to give that feedback and sharing some of their experiences. I'm kind of curious about bibliography. From what I've read, and I'm coming in with a lot of ignorance here, so I should just preface what I'm saying by saying that I don't know much about personal psychology, hence I want to be a student. But I'm curious about bibliography in the sense that since this appears to be a new field, when you're writing your master's thesis, how much do you draw upon other transpersonal psychologists? How much you draw upon things like ethics, literature? So are you just specifically focused on transpersonal psychology, or do you go into maybe I don't know, existential psychology? I think Peter used an interesting word, which was a purpose. So, I feel that in this process of transformation, it lends itself to drawing on other elements. So I'm just curious, I don't know if with the academics or alumni can comment on that. Go ahead, Beth, please. Thanks.
I love this question because it's one of my favorite points about transpersonal psychology. My own opinion. So this is not an official Alef stance at all. Transpersonal psychology, right? We think about it as kind of this specialist type of field, but it really is about, in my opinion, life skills, right? And there's a transpersonal element to everything. Whether a person believes that or doesn't believe that, that's what I believe. And one of the things that transpersonal psychology that we need to do better, I think, is do this transdisciplinary kind of networking and working together, which is, I think, for any kind of academic structure, it's a hard thing for academic structures to kind of work cross-disciplinary. It's a little bit of a challenge. And so I think the question about, well, what can you pull on? And I'll just talk about my own master's dissertation project. Transdisciplinary studies was a central aspect of what I was looking at. What I ended up researching for my dissertation was people who have had a life-changing experience and whether or not that life-changing experience had any relation to whether they were or were not engaged with sustainability ideas about existing in the world. So that's, sustainability is not a topic that you would place inside the specter of transpersonal psychology. But when I looked at the research about what was happening in all this kind of ecological research and climate change research and, meta-crisis research, and everybody's saying, well, we need to be doing transdisciplinary work, but nobody was doing it. It's like, okay, so let's do some of that. So I think whatever field you might be interested in, whatever you do now, can certainly be enhanced with what you learn out of a transpersonal psychology study effort. And if you're looking to migrate into something new, there's basically, I think, unlimited potential for areas of interest.
Thank you so much, Beth.
And I would just, really echo, thank you, Beth, for giving a really concrete example. As, we encourage students to draw from other fields is what I would say. We do not have the expectation that every single piece of literature, what you're going to write about or what you're interested in is something that's been specifically researched within the field of transpersonal psychology. We actually hope that you're bringing in something new. I mean, transpersonal psychology has been around for 50 years, but it's also, developed and grown in so many different ways because of the people who get involved in transpersonal psychology and then go on to build the field and grow the field in new ways. And, our world is just every year, every moment, it becomes more complex, it becomes more connected. And transpersonal psychology, I think, has also been able, because it's been so open in some ways, to be able to uh, allow for a response that is growing and unique to each individual who decides to kind of step into this field of work and this field of study. And I think a great way to get a sense, Fran, thank you for posting the link to the Aleph Trust article journal. It's a great way to kind of look at what kind of studies our graduates have done. All of the publications in that annual journal are students who have written a dissertation within the MSc and then organized it in article form to publish it. So you can see the range of topics that the students engage in. We have a pretty broad faculty who have a broad set of interests and expertise and skills. And so, you may be developing your interest over the first 2 years. And then in that third year, what we do is the module leaders of the dissertation module, based on your interest, your topic, will link you with a supervisor who has some expertise in that area and then can help guide you in that more unique, focused way. And yes, we hope that you're drawing from esoteric resources, that you're drawing from other fields of study to really inform both transpersonal psychology, but also to have transpersonal psychology and consciousness, right? The ideas to inform those other fields of study. We're really hoping that we can continue to build these bridges, not just within the academic world, right? Transdisciplinary academic world, but also in an applied way.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, just to paraphrase some of your ideas, I would probably summarize it by saying that on one level, the idea of the program is for us to be interconnected as people and to learn from each other. But then I think at the, let's say, at the academic level would be also to draw from other fields, but then also to inform other fields. So just to be part of that would be something that would be very interesting for me to be part of this. I think this is a really interesting program, and I think there's a lot of openness here, so it's not a straitjacket. So we don't need just to follow one path. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate your summary. Yes.
The hour. So just very briefly, if anybody within our staff or alumni wish to share anything, just any brief statements as we close. All right, everyone's quiet. All right, should any of you have any questions, just please contact me directly. I'm here to work with you. As we brought up, we will be having, future sessions that will focus more on each module plus the application workshops. And should you be unable to attend any of those, I'm happy to schedule time to speak with you. Generally, I'm available afternoons into evenings, UK time, probably half of the days, but I'm flexible. Just contact me, I'll work with you. Should you have quick questions as you're doing the application, number of applicants, just text me on WhatsApp. I'll respond right back to you. So thank you for taking the time to attend the program, and we really look forward to receiving your application. So thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.